President Bola Tinubu, just in the nick of time, transmits the list of ministers to the Senate. Former Governor Wike, Umahi, El-Rufai, and 24 others make the list. And we take a critical look at the internal politics of the APC and the recent leadership issues in the party. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbala. It's just past 7 p.m. right here in the city of Abuja, where for the past few days we've been monitoring and expecting the ministerial list from President Bola Tinubu. It's now 60 days since he assumed office. He took oath of office on the 29th of May, 2023. By law, he's supposed to have transmitted the names to the National Assembly today, which he did just at a nick of the but incomplete. But we'll look at all of those angles, the legal angles on what he needed to do, whether or not he has met the constitutionality of the provision of his office and what the obligations are. But we'll break it down for you. Who are those that made the list? Are you surprised? What are your expectations of them? Is this the kind of cabinet that Bola Tinubu, that you know, who was a governor in Lagos, is capable of bringing? Is it the quality of persons that the APC said they were going to bring together? We'll be analyzing all of these issues for you. Let's tell you that in the House of Representatives, the Speaker, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, has announced the name of lawmakers who will chair 134 standing committees in the Green Chamber. The Speaker unveiled the names of the committee chairpersons and their deputies on the floor of the House earlier today. The composition of the panels is in line with House standing rules, which provides for the establishment of standing committees to carry out the oversight functions of government agencies and programs and address specific issues of national importance. Some of the lawmakers who made the list as chairpersons of the committees are Honorable James Faleke, who will be heading the Finance Committee; Honorable Mukta Betara, he will be heading the FCT; Honorable Akin Alabi, Committee on Works; Honorable Bamdele Salam from Public Accounts, which goes to the opposition political party naturally; Honorable Idris Wase, Federal Character; Honorable Leke Abejide from Kogi Customs; Honorable Jimmy Benson retains the Defense Committee head; Honorable Hamed Satomi, National Security; Honorable Yusuf Gagdi retains the chairperson of the Navy. And this is just just a few out of all of the committees listed today. Tonight, we will give you all the perspectives, all the angles you need to know as far as President Bola Tinubu Batch A ministerial list is concerned. We're very certain that it's Batch A because of the provision of the law. Every state has to have a representation in the federal cabinet. The president today released 28 names. 11 states are omitted. How did he do it? What are the reasons? Did he put states or names or position or portfolios to this list? He did not. So we'll be looking at all of the angles tonight on the program. Stay with me. Let's check out some of your political roundup stories. And I'll allow my expert to weigh in after now.
Justice Hamza Muazu of the Federal Capital Territory High Court Abuja has struck out an application filed by the Department of State Services to secure an order to detain the suspended governor of the central bank, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, for 14 more days, based on what they refer to as fresh evidence they have uncovered. The application, which was heard by Justice Muazu, was said to have been quietly filed by the lawyers from the service on Wednesday and came up before a vacation judge today. The judge struck out the application for being an abuse of court process and for lack of jurisdiction. Governor Uba Sani of Kaduna State has cut down his monthly salary by 50% and is also asking public officers in the state to cut down on the cost of governance. The governor says this will help to avoid expensive lifestyles, especially in the face of the present economic situation in the country. The governor made this announcement during the swearing-in of the newly appointed commissioners. Governor Sani says 50% of his salary will be used to support the poor and vulnerable persons across the state.
Our people-centered administration will not rest until we positively impact on the lives of the poor, underserved, voiceless, and vulnerable in our state. Consequently, our administration will establish a trust fund for the poor and vulnerable in Kaduna State.
Governor Governor Doye Diri has sworn in 8 local government caretaker chairmen and 31 heads of rural development authorities. The governor, during the swearing-in ceremony, which was held at the government house in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa State capital, charged the new appointees to reside in their council areas while carrying out their official duties. He also warned them against taking loans from banks during their tenure.
And I do believe and I know that if we control our resources in Bayelsa State, we can create the number of local governments that will befit Bayelsa State.
Ahead of the official announcement of his appointment as the new national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, the immediate past governor of Kano State, Mr. Abdullahi Ganduje, said he'll perform for the ruling party in line with the nation's current realities. The former governor made this disclosure in Abuja while playing host to members of the National Integrated Movement and APC support group. Mr. Ganduje also expressed disappointment with the resignation of Mr. Salihu Lukman as the national vice chairman northwest of the party.
Internal democracy, deepening and widening consultation, and also try to make the party functional throughout the year, not only during election time.
And the Lamidi Apapa-led factional national publicity secretary of the Labour Party, Mr. Abayomi Arabambi, has accused the national leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress of treasonable felony against the federal government. This he premised on the proposed 2nd August nationwide industrial action called by the national leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress, led by Joe Ajero, over the removal of petroleum subsidy and its attendant negative impacts on socio-economic well-being of Nigerians. He was speaking in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, where he called on security agencies to beam their searchlights on the NLC president, saying the proposed nationwide protest is targeted at disrupting the Bola Tinubu-led administration.
To protest against President Bola Tinubu administration is a ploy to execute Mr. Peter Obi's ambition to unleash those obedient to violence and cause a violent overthrow of the present administration.
Thank you so much, everyone. Well, if you're those who, if you have been writing exams recently, or you remember the days when you write examination and you hear pencils up, you know that you are just at a time when the clock is telling you your time is over. Well, that looks to me like what happened today, just at the nick of time. It was almost pencil up for President Tinubu when the Chief of Staff to the President, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, today presented President Tinubu's ministerial list before the Senate. Mr. Gbajabiamila, the past Speaker of the House of Representatives, presented the list to the Senate President because we are probably at about 1:19 p.m. today. Mr. Fabio, the Senate President, said the list was dated the 27th of July, 2023, entitled Request for Confirmation of Ministerial Nominees. But this is what we know. We now know 28 people make up that list of what could be referred to as the batch A of the ministerial nominees, as presented by transmitted by the President today. Some of the prominent faces on the list include the former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, former governor of Ebonyi State, Dave Umahi, former governor of Jigawa State, Abubakar Bagudu, and some of those who are also prominent that you may be able to point out are 2 sitting lawmakers, Honorable Tunji Ojo from the House, representing Ondo State on that list, and Senator Dave Umahi from Ebonyi State, a sitting lawmaker and a former governor. Mr. Dele Alake, a longtime ally of President Tinubu, makes the list. Mr. Wale Edo also makes the list. And interestingly, there is the name of Mr. Adebayo Adelabu from Ogun State making the list. A former minister who will be returning from an international duty, Mr. Party representing Bauchi, also is on the list. Senator Ena is also on that list. There is a long list of 28 people on that list, which includes 25% of women, and the rest are men. Well, out of the list also are 2 sitting National Working Committee members of the APC, Senator Abubakar Kyari and Mrs. Betta Edu, who is the national women leader of the APC. Both of them are on that list. We'll be breaking it down further for you. But let's get into analyzing what this is all means altogether, whether or not this is a kind of list you as a Nigerian is expecting. The APC has promised that we will get quality in person, character, and expertise of the people who will make up the cabinet tonight. A former Minister for National Planning, who is the Director General of the Nigerian Institute of Legal Research Studies, Professor Abubakar Suleiman, joins us live in the studio. It's good to see you. Thank you so much indeed for coming.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. I don't know how you receive on a day like this. I remember when your name, representing Kwara State at the time, on the cabinet. There's been a lot of jostling, no doubt. Political permutations. A lot of the versions of these lists have come on the internet and gone. But now we are for starting 28 names out of the possible 36 states, because the law, the constitution, it says every state has to be represented. Give us your a summary of your view about what the president presented today.
Thank you very much. I think it was a long-awaited list, and as Surali said, the Constitution mandated Mr. President, to establish an office of ministers, and that each state shall, be represented in the cabinet. So what Mr. President has done today, I think, is in conformity with the constitutional provisions. One, people are expecting that maybe perhaps we will not get the list today. Thank God we were able to get the list. But one thing that I think we should bear in mind as Nigerians is that, you see, cabinet ministers or cabinet members is key to the direction of any government. When you are in a hurry to constitute, you may find yourself in serious problem. Mr. President came with a vision. He came with a 10-point agenda of how to move the country forward. He came with a vision to address insecurity, to address the economy, to address, the issue of non-inclusions, to address a lot of crises facing this country. And for him to get this thing done, he needs lieutenants, he needs policymakers, he needs advisors that will key into his vision, that will key into his agenda. And perhaps in doing that, he must take his time to constitute. He must take his time, weigh the options, and bring this a lot of pressures, a lot of contestations, a lot of consideration, a lot of variables comes in determining who comes. Who should I pick? Who should I pick? It's not just for Bola Ahmed Tinubu to just say, I want, Sim Wakimbaloye from Kwara to be minister. He must consider certain variables, where you are coming from, the forces, the security apparatus must come in to scrutinize you. You must have to look at your pedigree. So what I've seen today is a blend of technocrats with politicians, is a blend of people that have really worked for APC, that have really worked for the man to assume leadership of this country. And to a large extent, I think from my own view, let us look at the issue of inclusion. How many women? 7 out of 28.
28, yeah.
25%, I think that's not too bad enough. That's good enough.
Considering the fact that we still have 11 states left out, possibly going to 42 out of 28.
Then secondly, look at the former governors. The like of Wike from Rivers State was former...
Did you see that coming?
I saw it coming, of course.
A PDP member, although, it's obvious that it looked like he worked and he didn't hide it.
When you talk about reward system, when you talk about patronage, when you talk about inclusion, when you talk about pedigree, to a large extent, I think, which we expected. He worked for the party, he did so much for the party, and give it to him in terms of, pedigree, in terms of accomplishment in the state. I think he did very well. Don't forget that myself and Nwike and myself were part of the cabinet in 2014, 2013. So I think it's experience too will go a long way in helping Mr. President. But beyond the wiki of a thing, we talk of the lack of the technocrats. You talk of the legal gurus, the lack of Fagbemi from Kwara State.
Absolutely.
You talk of the lack of Pate, who was former minister too, and going by his accomplishment at the United Nations agencies. I think when you look at all this, then you talk about the women, you talk about you know,
and there are very young people too on the cabinet. You talk about women.
You talk about
Stella Okotete is less than 40 years.
So we're looking at inclusivity. How many women? How many youths? So we have women in abundance. 25% is not too bad. Then some of them are, you talk of the Betty. Betty is less than 40 years old.
38 years old.
The Musawa, what's the name again?
Yeah, it's a young woman too.
It falls within that, you know.
Stella Okotete, 39
so I
years.
think in what we are looking for, perhaps one thing I've not seen is people with vulnerability. But in terms of inclusivity, in the areas of women, in the areas of youth, and in the areas of identifying people that are even key, that are even address, you know, the fundamental crisis facing the country under, you know, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I think the list, to my, you know, mind, was in line with my expectation.
So you look at energy, capacity. Adebayo Adelabu, a former
deputy
governor of the CBN, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo is going to be a second-term member of the House, a young man, less than 45 years of age, also in that cabinet. He comes from a private sector when he moved into politics. Stella Okotete, a former Wale Edun, Dele Alake, journalist Wale Edun, who is known for. Do you think that the right pegs and well, we do not know the roles the president, because that's another critical thing, getting them into the right portfolios, isn't it?
Whatever it is, as long as looking at their pedigree, they have the capacity, they have the competence. Some of them are really, they were accomplished people in the various calling before. Wherever you put them, I think they will do very well. When I was made a minister, I was made a minister of national planning. Nobody ever gave me to me that I could do what I did. But we have to look at where they're coming from. Does he have the capacity? Does he have the pedigree? Does he have the character? Does he have what it takes? Does he key into the vision of Mr. President or the party? I think if you look at all the areas of these people, I think regardless of the portfolio, the selection, to my own knowledge, is very much in line.
All right. Let's look at one thing that is also the state that have been left out. There are, and I know this must have given the president a lot of headache. If you were in his shoes, perhaps a state like Kano, for example, there are a lot of people who had, in fact, we were hearing that there was a bargaining that Mr. Ganduje should get out of the cabinet so that he can go and do party things. Someone like a former governor, Kwankwanso, is being tipped to be on that kind of scenario would give some political headache. If you were in, what do you think was probably going through the head of the president?
You see, I can't speak for Mr. President and I can't speak for the party. But one thing that we need to consider is that before now, we've been asking for government of national unity. We have been talking about government of inclusivity. People have been advising him to say, go beyond partisanship. Look at perhaps other political parties that have something to offer. So if today, well,
it doesn't look like that. It looks like everyone as being within the, either you carry PDP or APC, they look like
what Mr. President see, you don't see it. What he see, we don't see it. You see, we can be outside there to critique, you know, to make a statement, to say a lot of things against government of the day. But what they see in terms of, you know, information, intelligence, we don't see it. So it's not just, you know, as simple as that to say, oh, perhaps. I think what we have seen so far, Patel was not part of APC, right? Fagbemi was not part of, it's not a member of APC. And if today they are not bringing on board the Kwankwaso, you know, I don't see anything wrong in that. What is important is what you can offer, what you can put on the table. As long as Kwankwaso has what it takes, you know, to assist Mr. President in his, you know, key agenda of getting this country on track, so it be. So, yes, we are all aware that, yes, Gandhi had to give way because he needed to attend to party matter. But again, if you had to go for 42, Gandhi wouldn't have even stopped Kwankwaso coming into the play because you can as well give what belongs to Northwest, to Kano, giving them 2 slots. So I think it's not just something we have to be in order to draw a conclusion. So, but in terms of permutation, in terms of the consideration, in terms of variables, you know, that key into the perceptions of leadership, They know what they are facing. They see what you don't see. So it's not just for us to sit down in the studio and draw a conclusion.
Yeah, and again, some of these persons, their name will have to go through some security scrutiny.
Of course.
And I mean, you might want somebody, but the person might not pass a security scrutiny.
That's another consideration.
Another scrutiny.
That's another variable.
Let me bring another perspective, Prof. I'm being joined by Kayode Ogunamsi, who is a political analyst. Kayode, it's good to see you. He joins us live virtually from London. I know you're one of those who have talked on the hashtag, the list, the Tinubu list. Are you disappointed or are you impressed?
Let me just put it this way. It's a fairly okay list. I think the first thing is, you know, we're getting worried that the president that kicked the ground running seems to be stalling. But when you look at this list, you just have to first look at the politicians he tried to sort of reward and the quality of those politicians. David Umahi, Nyesom Wike, Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai. And when you look at the track records of these individuals, you know that they did quite well as governors of the state. So you see that he's put a lot of thought into this list. Then the young people are on the list, the women on the list, particularly people should watch out for Natu Musawa and then Dele Alake. What you will be praying is that the president would actually put these individuals in the right portfolio. I would like to see someone like Dele Alake in formation. I would like to see Governor El-Rufai in power, in the power sector. I would like to see Wike in the Ministry of Housing and the critical sectors. Let's put these people to test to work. I think this is first time we just need to put politics aside and just acknowledge that this percentage of the list submitted by the president, you can't see any individual that you pick out and say, okay, they are not worthy of being ministers. What I'm hoping is that the president will do away with this Minister of State position because we're in a very critical point in our country where we're spending so much on public appointees. If he can get through that and just not have a Minister of State, then we will be seeing a change in direction, really. So my initial comments are that it's a welcome list.
Well, if you look at it, 60 days for the president and his team that they said they went to Paris and they were planning. They were meeting with investors, foreign investors. Would you say 60 days? And some people would say, if it was 60... I was reading some comments and they were very interesting comments. They said, are these the people that you are putting up together for the past 60 days?
Yeah, that was quite surprising because the impression this presidency gave us was that he had the plan. He had a plan. The plan is already, the blueprints are there. And you were expecting that we would be shocked by maybe 10 days after inauguration, we're just going to have the technocrats hit the ground running. That was a bit of a disappointment. I think, you remember the last administration, we thought something shocking was going to come into play, and then we had the list after, I think, about 3 or 4 months, and it was just business as usual. But you want to concede that when he was governor of Lagos, he practically presented unknowns as commissioners, and those unknowns went on to perform brilliantly because, and up to date, you hear those names, Fashola, Oshibajo, Aregbesola, and co. So maybe 60 days, a bit too late, but this team needs to actually keep the ground running because right now, the president seems to be catching up. There's particularly with the monetary policy that is in place that is causing a lot of pains across the country. The needed stock that we need to put our country back on track. This team now, the president now needs to actually take the back seat and let this team start projecting his agenda and his programs to Nigerians because time is running out. We are at the tipping point where the poor cannot breathe, and this team seems to, they need to start delivering that renewed hope because 60 days out of 4 years is a long time. So we have the list, and let's just hope things work out. But I'm quite impressed with the quality of some of the people that are being presented to the Senate today, and I hope they do pass through. Remember, we are also quite shocked that Wike, who swore never to become a minister again, he was just going to his village to rest, is now a minister. And that is to tell you that you can never take politicians for their words, But people have a right to change their mind and serve the country. And it will be interesting how President Tinubu is going to deal with these big characters in his cabinet.
Kaude, look at it. The breakdown. Let me show you the analysis. There are 28 names transmitted by the president. 25 states are represented. 11 out of the 36 states of the Federation, plus the FCT, are not represented just yet. Interestingly, there are 2 states that are not represented that are very linked biologically or otherwise to the president, Osun and Lagos State. They are not represented on that list. And I can imagine the kind of tussle politically and psychologically that could have been. Kano is another very critical state that may have caused some trouble or political trauma and given some headache. 4 former governors, 2 sitting federal lawmakers, Umahi Olumumitunji Ojo, 7 women, 21 men. If you look at this, what are your expectations? Plus the fact that the law says 60 days to transmit. Does the law give the president the permission to transmit on the 60-day batch A and not complete it? I don't know whether or not he's fully met the provisions of the Constitution or whether or not he's in half breach of the Constitution as we speak.
So let's leave. You see, our Constitution has a lot of lacunas in place. You guys are the legal people, and there are lots of wiggle room for presidents and elected officials. But name those critical states: Lagos State, Osun State, Kano State. What do they have in common? The president struggled to win elections in those 3 states. He really struggled in those 3 states. Kano State, and as a sitting president, with an unpopular president in terms of number of votes, probably the most unpopular in terms of the number of votes that make him president, he needs to start looking at the next election. And if he's not careful in who he brings into office, into the cabinet from Kano, from Lagos, and Osun, where the opposition PDP has a governor that seems to be popular with the people, cleared all the local government elections, cleared all the Senate seats and all the House of Reps seats, it would need to put in a lot of thought. But time is running out for him. In Kano, the power struggle between Kwakwanso and Ganduje needs to be sorted out, and I think it needs to be sorted out within the next 24 to 48 hours. But so I'm quite happy at a name that is not on the list from Kano State. It would have been very worrying for the APC to have that name. Not to cause any controversy, I won't mention that name. And I'm quite pleased at some names that are not on the list that I was thinking, oh my God, if this president should present these characters to the Nigerian people who are facing serious anti-corruption cases with the EFCC, then it's going to be problematic. So I would think it's for political reasons that he's finding it difficult to present ministers from those states or nominees from those states. Lagos is his own base that is shaky, with Labour Party giving him a run for the money. Osun State, where the opposition PDP governor is there. And remember, his closest allies in Osun State, I think, is being pushed to become the national secretary of the APC. So we just wait and we wait and see what the strategy the president is going to come up with in delivering nominees from those states.
Let's wrap this up. Let me come back to Prof. The coming days are going to be very interesting. Labour is threatening to go on strike. The resident doctors are threatening. It does look like the president needs the team to be put together ASAP. The Senate cannot go on breaks because they have to sit on this list and confirm or not confirm. Because all of these names, They might decide not to confirm some of them, but I don't see the Senate actually not confirming any person on that list that is sent by the president. You politically, you know how this thing plays out. Almost a few of them will bow and go because of their relationship with the National Assembly. But let's wrap this now. What are your what would you like to give out to those whose name is not going to be a bed of roses? The nation needs a whole lot of hard worker at this point. Is there anyone you like to give them? You've been in that corridor before.
I think with the experience one coming on board, some of the former governors, former ministers, serving former senators, I think they know the task ahead of them. And with the task ahead of them, with the experience they have, I don't want to believe that they will sack in their responsibility. We know the agenda before Bola Ahmed Tinubu in terms of fixing this country. We know some of the crises that are bringing. You have just mentioned it. The labor, the various labor disputes. Yeah. The resident doctor, the TUC, the NLC.
In fact, more than any minister now, Nigeria needs the labor minister.
So I think I'm not envious of them because, but again, I believe in their capacity. I believe in their sincerity, and I believe they will give this man the best. And they will give the nation the best in terms of trying to. It's not something they have to go and sleep. And my plea to Mr. President is to do everything possible in them assessing him from time to time. That is key. Yes, we have the Constitution 148 subset 2 said, yes, there must be regular meeting. There must be every weekly meeting. But beyond meeting, we are undergoing serious crises. Monetary challenges are there. Insecurities are there. So I want to believe that this set of ministers that are coming on, ministerial nominees that are coming on board, they know what it takes. The secondly, I want to believe that in the expected list, the 11 we're expecting, I want to believe from the reaction, from the feedback coming from the environment to the system, Mr. Bola Tinubu, we don't know, yes. If Nigeria has said this, okay, yes, let me see what I can replicate this. If they are saying this one is not okay, let me see how I can really beef up the team so that we have a crack team. But sincerely yours, I do not envy them. There are a lot of things ahead of them, and they must be ready to really sit down and do the work. All
right. Kawade, give us your final thought on this one, the expectations.
The expectations are huge. The things are really. If the president inherited a bad situation, it's gone from bad to worse, and this team needs to kick the ball. They just need to actually now take pressure off the president and start delivering in the different sectors. Power. The finance minister must lead. We need to know our finance minister immediately. So that they can ease that pressure and we can have a proper direction between the Finance Ministry. And it's not just the ministers. We have an acting CBN governor, the EFCC chairman is substantive. A lot of these agencies need to have people in place because Nigerians need this government to start delivering. There's no excuse. This is not the days of 19 years of PDP. It's an APC government inheriting from another APC government, and people need to start feeling the ease in those pains.
Thank you so much indeed, gentlemen. Prof, thank you so much for the insight that you have given and the benefit of your experience as being a former...
National Assembly, we're here to work with them.
Thank you. Yeah, we hope so. And in your own capacity too, we do hope that we get Nigeria working. Yeah. Maybe tomorrow, we will try to look at the legality of what the president has done. He's the president in breach. I think I need to talk to a very experienced lawyer to break this down. Has the president done, in part, his obligation to the law? Well, these are some other angles, but thank you so much indeed, Prof. Kawade, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for your time on the program. We take a break.
Thank you,
and when we return, we'll focus on the APC and its internal trouble. There is yet another senior member of the NWC has resigned. The party says they've not accepted his resignation, but the man said he's not doing it again. We'll find out the details of all of that after this break. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Apart from the fact that we've been discussing the cabinet nominations from President Bola Tinubu, there is something that should give the president some kind of worry, and it's the internal workings of the APC. Well, The president, with his nomination, had somewhat decimated the composition, the membership of the National Working Committee of the APC. Senator Kyari and Ms. Betta Edu, both of them they are now going to be serving on the cabinet pending their confirmation by the Senate. Beyond that, the party does not have a national chairman and the party does not have a national secretary. They have acting national chairman and acting secretary. There's been talks about replacing Senator Adamu and Senator Yelo Mishore, both men who 2 weeks ago, about over a week now, are said to have resigned their position. Now, Senator Abubakar Kyari is now being nominated. He's the acting national chairman. But yesterday, one man has raised dust about an eyebrow about the internal workings of the APC is Mr. Salihu Lukman, the APC national vice chairman. But he has said that he is resigning his position because of the ongoings. Let's speak with one of the members of the National Working Committee of the APC, Felix Moka. He's the National Publicity Secretary of the APC. He joins us live here in our studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Moka, for joining us.
As always, thank you for inviting me.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
28 names out of possible 42 that we have seen. This list was in consultation with the party.
As you know, Sheon, the president has the prerogative to constitute his cabinet. In the course of that, he's also entitled to consult freely and widely, but there's no requirement that he must talk to anybody. But informally he does, and I'm quite sure that he did in this instance, because the president is someone who is very resolved and determined to do well as a leader, as president of this country. So I reckon that he has taken his time. I know a lot of people were expecting that this list would have come out sooner than it did. But again, that's the man really taking a lot of care to ensure that he puts together a team that can help him succeed as president.
So if you look at the list that part of the campaign that your party has come up, one of the main campaign promise or campaign agenda was they keep reminding Nigerians, what Bola Tinubu did in Lagos. The fact that he had very fantastic people who easily mentioned Wale Edun, Babatunde Fashola, mentioned the likes of Professor Yemi Oshibajo. Easily they mention these kind of personalities, and that is the kind of characters that you will see in and around him. Do you think that campaign statement was brought to bear in this cabinet list that we saw?
Well, this is a pretty strong list. I mean, it will take a while to digest.
Strong in what sense?
Strong in terms of the composition. These are, some of them are people who have, done remarkably well, who have, track record of, success in the different, fields of endeavor. I mean, it's a pretty diverse list. I mean, you have a few, politicians who are there. You have people, some of them who are, core technocrats who have done well professionally, in the different callings. So I think it's a good mix, but I think we should wait until we see the full list so we can, better digest it in terms of the diversity, in terms of the, composition with respect to, the core competence that we are looking to see in a cabinet of this kind.
The president has taken out of your mix because when I asked the question to Senator Yelo Mishore the other day about some members of the NWC who are jostling and who are also politicking, trying to lobby to get themselves on the cabinet list. So where did I get it from? Mm-hmm. Sometimes we don't like to say we were right. Our information is right. 2 of the NWC members are now on the list. So 4 people or 5 people now are practically out of the NWC. So you imagine, who are those left?
Oh, many. We're supposed to be about 25 on the NWC.
Yeah, but they,
so, you know, five people...
apart from the deputies,
yes.
The core of the NWC.
No, the core,
it's not more than 12 or 13.
Well,
out of 5 are now out.
Well, you mean of the principal...
The principal roles.
Officers.
The statutory and the substantive roles. They're not talking about the deputy and the vice now. Out of those roles, majorly 5 are out.
Well, yes. I mean, 2 by appointment. Mm-hmm. You know, let's not forget.
2 by elimination.
It just happened by appointment.
Yeah.
You know, but they're still on the NWC until, of course, they confirm and, you know, assume their new offices. But look, you know, the NWC is, you know, an organic, you know, entity, if you will, put together by the party to administer the party at that level. So, you know, the resignation of a few people only paves way for the constitutional mechanism of replacement in acting capacity initially to actually take place. That's what you saw with the resignation of the national chairman and the national secretary. You know, you saw the deputy North, Abubakar Kyari, you know, take that position, and then Festus, you know, Fonta, who was deputy national secretary, also, you know, assume, you know, the role of, you know, acting national secretary. So the constitution anticipates and envisages that occasions may come, and in fact does come when these things happen.
Let's take the substantive national chairman that, by the virtue of their own volition, they resign, as well as Senator Yolo Mishure.
Correct.
When are you replacing them?
My hope is that will be done pretty soon, because, you know,
how soon?
Soon enough, you know, because we
is
have
the next meeting happening next week, from what we hear.
Well, the next meeting is going to happen in a few days. I can say that.
But a few days, maybe tomorrow next?
No, we will make an announcement, obviously, you know, to you know, communicate the date. But I know that, you know, we're making efforts to put the meeting together and then confirm a date for the caucus, you know, before the NEC. So, and, you know, of course, some of these issues we're hoping will also, you know, come up on the agenda for discussion. NEC, as you know, is our, you know, highest policy organ of the party. So we're expecting that, you know, the issue of, you know, vacancies in the NWC, along with other critical issues, may play up, you know, during that meeting.
So is it official now that Mr. Ganduje and Senator Basiru will replace Senator Adamu and Senator Yolo Mishure as the national chairman and the national secretary, respectively?
No, we don't have an official decision on that important, you know, question. We don't yet. But as I said, we're again hoping that NEC will deal with, you know, the issue of succession to those offices, and would, you know, hopefully give, you know, further direction on which.
Because the word is already is public, is everywhere, and usually, politically speaking, the caucuses in the regions are sometimes responsible for filling this position. And what we know and what we hear is that this is already cast in stone. This is already settled, politically speaking. It's settled. That is what we know. Maybe unofficially, have you been getting some kind of communication unofficially, though? Because the word is out there in the public.
No, the word is out there. You know, people, I mean, the media is replete with all kinds of information and discussions. That's the nature of the media, isn't it? People, you know, sometimes have facts, sometimes they speculate. But we are not in the business of speculating, you know, until it's official. We don't, you know, certify it. We don't come out to, you know, verify information that has not been discussed and approved by the appropriate authorities of the party. So until that is done, we are not able to join issues with, you know, the media. I mean, you're the media. You have all the freedom in the world to imagine and speculate and also discuss facts. But we must wait until, you know, all of the constitutional processes are followed and decisions made.
There are concern, and that's what Saliu Lukman has. And he says he has resigned. Has that communication reached the party officially too?
You know, like you, I've been reading a lot of material.
But this is beyond reading. Look at that, the official communication from Salih Mustafa right there on the screen.
Yes.
That he has left the party.
Well, that's a notice of resignation, which I've seen circulating. Again, let me say this. On some of these matters, if a party leader, a member of the NWC, resigns or serves notice of resignation, for example, that's not the end of it. Okay, that notice has to pass through certain official processes before it becomes official. So, with respect to Lukman, yes, I've read all of the reports, but again, our processes must be exhausted for us to be able to say, what, a member of the NWC, someone like Lukman, has actually resigned from the party.
So his resignation has not been accepted?
Well, I haven't said that. I'm saying that, we have systems. The information you are reading is what I'm reading as well. But officially, we have yet to actually engage that, discussion at the party.
He raised a fundamental question, which he says the party is moving and the leadership of the party is moving in breach of Article 31.5, Section I of the APC Constitution, dealing with how party officials and the leadership of party has been replaced. Like I mentioned, caucuses, the groupings within the region. Senator Adamu, for example, is from the north central region of the country. From what is being said and touted, Senator Ganduje is from the northwest of the country. He is saying that the wrong thing and the wrong precedents are being laid. By that information, if Senator Ganduje is said to be replacing Senator Adamu, it will have been illegal based on the party's constitution.
No,
are you aware of this?
No, that's not true. You see, first of all, let me say that, that position is actually premature because nobody has followed any procedure to replace anybody. That has not happened. It's completely incoherent. So, I think it's really, jumping the gun to begin to, discuss a matter that has yet to happen. As I said, the party has yet to follow any particular procedure to replace, the outgoing national chairman. So for anyone to be, overheating on that question that has not been done and calling it an illegality, that's completely speculative. And I think that, again...
in politics, yes, what you hear sometimes becomes the reality. And it's the conversation that you hear that becomes the official communication eventually. If Article 3.31.5 of the APC Constitution is anything to go by, if Senator Adamu is going to be replaced, it has to be replaced from the North Central. Do you agree with the constitution of your party? Do you agree? That's the constitution of the party.
That's not...
Should I read the portion to you?
Please go ahead and read it.
It says that, it says, in the case of a national zonal officer, a state executive committee shall propose a replacement to the state congress and zonal executive committee for endorsement. Thereafter, the name shall be sent to the national working committee, which shall be forwarded same to the national executive committee for approval. That is your constitution.
Correct.
Which means if Senator Abdullah Adamu is going to be replaced, it has to be replaced from the North Central region based on this section that I've just read.
See, ordinarily, that is the case. But there's nothing in the Constitution, including the provision you just read, that suggests that the party itself... I mean, what if the people in North Central, for example, were to come up and say, you know what, we're prepared to, or we're willing to...
cede it.
To cede it.
That's going to be an extraordinary situation against the spirit of this section.
No. There's nothing extraordinary about it. The point I'm making is that a party constitution lays out, what the constitution says ought to be done. But that does not mean that in some cases, the party and those organs of the party do not have the powers to actually vary, some of those provisions or the application of those provisions. They can. And invariably, it does happen. But again, this is all speculative. No one has been endorsed by anyone officially for that position. Yes, you read a lot of, discussions, individuals, party officials coming together to say, we would like to see this individual, actually emerge. That's within their range of constitutional freedom.
Let's
suggest.
Let's wrap this up now.
In the circumstances.
Yeah, let's wrap this up now, Mr. Moka. As the party audited the accounts, which is one of the bone of contention that led to the resignation of Senator Adamu and Senator Mishore, because there are those who raised questions on the funds in the party fund, and they're asking questions.
Yes.
What has the party done?
Yes, we have audited accounts. We have. Yes.
Is it made public?
We have organs of the party to whom those accounts are provided, and the party is doing just that.
What have you found out? Is there any money missing? Is there any misappropriated or unappropriated funds?
I can't speak to that.
Why not?
I can't.
You're a public officer.
I'm a public officer. I'm not a financial,
but you speak for the party.
Duty holder.
You should know everything about the party.
No, not when it comes to specific questions as you're asking. That's not my bit. It's an audited report. I'm not the external auditor. I'm not the internal auditor. I'm not a financial person. I'm the spokesman of the party. I would leave matters that are that specific to those who have been given the duty.
Did you hear maybe some of your party members or leaders were being questioned by the EFCC?
I have no official information about that.
Unofficial information?
I don't.
That some of them were invited on a particular weekend before the resignation happened?
No, I don't have that information.
Would you say that your party is in some kind of crisis and that you're trying to resolve?
No, we're not in a crisis, Sheon. I mean, look, any organization, I've said this repeatedly, APC is a political party. Like any organization, you can't have any sort of period, an extended period of time where you do not have, conversations or difficult conversations or disagreements. But what I think is important here is that when we disagree in APC, as you see with the national chairman and national secretary, people make decisions that are in the best interest of the party.
Right.
And that's what you're saying. It just shows the level of maturity of our systems that we built in a very short period of time.
Mr. Moka, thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheon.
Difficult things that are happening within your party. I hope that you guys are able to manage it.
I'm sure difficult things are happening at channels as well, like everywhere else.
Technical difficult things, not things that are about than to us, issues of morality and issues of fun. Thank you so much indeed for coming. I appreciate it. But that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm sure I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. God bless Nigeria.